Everybody, we're here today to talk How to Train Your Dragon, the live action version, brand new in theaters. And Steven, there is a trend of animated classics being turned into live action films here in the last few years. And How to Train Your Dragon's the latest one. And maybe some good news. It's from DreamWorks, not Disney. So there's that. But can you call a 15-year-old movie a classic?
I would say so. I think 15 is like the upper bound on classics, depending on how you date it. It is the point. Like, I don't know, 10 years is, you could make the argument, but I feel like 15 is getting into that. Yeah, it's a classic movie now.
Okay.
It's hard because, in my mind, classic movies are 50s and 60s, but that's 60 years old.
That's you thinking that.
Yeah, it is.
Because,
for sure is. So I'm trying to be in 2025 thought process, and I would say 15 is a classic-ish age.
Just to put that into context for you before we jump in here, like when you consider the time frame between now and The Empire Strikes Back, which just had its 45th anniversary last week or the week before, 45 years from Empire Strikes Back backwards, World War II hadn't happened yet, hadn't started.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, it's nuts, right? Fair warning, everybody, How to Train Your Dragon is my favorite animated movie of all time. And it's not close. And we'll get into the reasons why. But if I seem like a little slanted at times, maybe I am. But when we get to the score, Steven's score was higher than mine originally. So I'll throw that out there for credibility's sake when we get to our final score here. Steven, I'll get into what works for me about this movie. I loved it overall. Is it as good as the animated one? No, not quite. Part of that's because it's a little bit longer.
Yeah, I've had a recent trend. Like, my wife and I were talking about this, and we just noticed that it felt like a lot of movies recently felt 20, 30 minutes too long. Mickey 17 was the latest. I mean, I know it's a year old at this point, but we just finally got around to watching it.
Oh, it's not. It came out in
March.
No,
it's not. Okay, then never mind. Yeah. Fairly recently. But that was the one where it felt like, wow, that's like half an hour too long. This did not feel that way.
It didn't to me either.
I felt that the half hour extra, or however actual minute-wise extra, was well used. Because I do think I really enjoyed the pacing of this movie.
Me too. This is at its heart a story about a boy and his dog, and the dog is a dragon, and it's set in Norse, within like Norse mythology very loosely, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're Vikings. Their town is being attacked and raided by dragons and has been for generations. So there's this like long-standing hatred of dragons within the people of the town. And Toothless here on my shoulder agrees, if you're wondering what the hell is on my shirt here. But so Hiccup, who's like the boy who doesn't fit in, right? He's the Viking who's not really a Viking. He's more like the nerdy, studious kid who's like inventing shit and all of that. He hits the Nightwing dragon, which is like the dragon's dragon, the badass that no one has ever seen. And he, with one of his like inventions, hits him with this like rope and whatever, tracks him down in the forest. He's about to kill him, sees Hiccup's just as scared as him and can't do it. That begins this relationship. And that's where I'm going to come to what really works about this movie and what worked about the original. The magic of How to Train Your Dragon, for me, Steven, is two things. One, it is the bond between Hiccup and Toothless. And Mason Thames, who does an outstanding job as Hiccup here, like, he said it better than I could probably say it. He said that bond is the heartbeat of the movie. And it is. It's the guiding North Star at every point in this film. So I think that is portrayed brilliantly. And then 2 is the score. They kept the score intact, including bringing back the same person who scored the animated film. And that scene where it's like the test driving Toothless scene, over the water, and you really get the chorus going and all that.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Just as good as the animated. I don't know. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like those two things are kind of what make it?
Yeah, the soundtrack definitely phenomenal. Still, I didn't catch that it was the same, but it's been a while since I watched the original animated film.
It's John Powell, by the way, who does the score for it. So, yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think the point between Toothless and Hiccup being the main driving force of this film is for sure accurate. I think they did a good job at not making it an immediate, hey, we're best friends now. I think some of the extra time in this movie is spent like kind of going through and spending time between those two before it jumps from like, hey, your wings hurt to, okay, now we're flying in the animated film, which is fine in an animated film, but like in the live action, I don't know. I enjoyed that little bit. It's like an extended edition. That's
also,
what this felt
making
like.
this movie in 2025, not 2010. The world is different.
Yeah.
And I feel like this film very subtly was very much in tune with that. So, also returning, not just the composer, but Gerard Butler in the role of Stoic, the head of the town, village, whatever. He returns. He played the role in the first one, and he basically, like, I felt like he played Gerard Butler in the first one, so it makes total sense that he's here.
A little bit.
But yeah, it's perfect. Nick Frost also in this movie, which I thought was great. So always happy to see him turn up. There are some scenes that just really stand out to me, Steven. The first is the head touching scene, right? Or or Hiccup turns away. First time they really touch. And it's where this bond is truly, truly formed. And right before that, it comes the scene where and it's actually on the screen behind us right now as you're watching the video. But the right before that is a scene where he's drawing Toothless's head in the sand. Toothless comes, sees it, and then Toothless draws all these lines, and Hiccup has to kind of dance around him to get to him, and that's where this really forms. Also, like there's some other really cool scenes where Hiccup finds himself under attack in like the arena, and Toothless climbs and rushes to his aid to save him, and that's where you see, like, at first Toothless ran away from him, and now he's running to him when he feels he's in danger. And then finally, everything in the third act, Steven, I thought played really well in live action.
Yeah, I was I guess I'm most concerned about that going in, like how they were going to do the big giant dragon, just the fight scenes. And I thought it looked great. I thought it was really well shot. We should do a shot by shot remake when these come like out digital and like kind of compare the scenes, because I think it'll be interesting to see what's different and what's the same between the two. But I feel like it kept the spirit of the original quite well, while I don't want to say fully coming into its own, but kind of separating itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the heart is there.
Yes.
It's the same just film, the same feel when you walk out of it, I feel like, but they are a little bit different. And what'd you think of Mason Thames as Hiccup here?
I really enjoyed him. He did a good job as Hiccup. I really enjoyed kind of the principal group. I thought Nico Parker as Astrid also kind of nailed it.
Let's talk about that, because she's getting the most heat here, and she is the reason that the score of the live action tends to be a little bit lower. Her performance has been called wooden by a lot of critics, and I personally don't really agree with that. Tell me your thoughts.
I don't see that either. I thought she played very much like Astrid was, where she was primed to be the best fighter out of the group of like teens. And she came from nothing, at least as was explained in the movie. I thought the explanation of her background fit with her character work. And then but like it showed her softer side, and she kind of immediately comes to the side of Hiccup and Toothless
After,
you know.
yeah.
So I liked her a lot, actually. It's weird. I would not have guessed that she would have been called Wooden.
In the animated film, she is much more animated, I guess, in how she communicates some of her lines. I feel like she's much more subdued here. But in this performance, in this movie, I took it as she's the most Viking of all of them in this group, right? Of the kids. And I think she feels this tremendous pressure and weight to be that. And I think that comes through in kind of how she, behaves and interacts. I think we see the kid in her come out at times every time she's like, and that's for everything else,
Yeah.
Now she says that very differently than she does in the film. There's also another difference between Astrid in the original and Astrid here that I don't want to get into right now.
You know what's funny?
That
I didn't
might
notice...
have something to do with, some of the stuff.
I really didn't notice it until I saw a picture of her out like in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I never would have guessed.
Yeah.
And so it's just racism and people not liking it. I thought the movie does a good job of kind of explain. They're not in a real, like, they're not in Greenland or Iceland, or where, or Denmark or Norway. They're in this location, and there's a line in the movie where Gerard Butler or Stoic is talking about kind of how they all came together and the groups coming from, Far East, the Silk Road.
It's a very diverse community.
Land.
Yeah, as far as Vikings go,
yeah, they're like Viking, or they're dragon hunters, and it's not, to me, I'm like, yeah, cool, like that's fine. I could, if dragons existed, I could see people from all over the different parts of the world wanting to go fight them, because that's human nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't bother me. Again, if it bothers you, you're just a racist. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts.
If that's the reason that you're bothered,
Well,
and there are plenty of people who you're free to not like the performance as long as that's not the catalyst of that.
Yeah.
Mason Thames is only 17. I was surprised to see that. He was in Black Phone. I assume he was only 16 when this movie was filmed.
Well, Nico Parker's only 20. So she's
a young cast. Quite young. Yeah. For a 17-year-old from Texas, this dude did a great job. As Hiccup. Not that he's from Texas, not is a knock on you, but when you're playing a Viking, it's a little, Yeah. What'd you feel about Toothless? I mean, besides we talked, the principal actors here, but Toothless is the star, right? And how'd you feel about Toothless in terms of how the character was portrayed? And then did you feel like the CGI was too CGI'd or just right, or what?
There was one part in the later parts of the movie where I did kind of notice the CGI more. I thought early on he looked quite good, and I was like, oh, it just fits nicely in with the vistas that they filmed in. Mm-hmm. And so it didn't really bother me. I do feel like Toothless is maybe I hate to say this, the weakest part of the remake. Like, I feel like he is better in the animated. Like he has more heart than he kind of does here, or more spirit. I don't know. Something about it. It might just be that it works better as an animated character than it does as a CGI character. But that would have been. I like it. I'm not saying it was horrible, but I think it was just a little bit weaker. I actually enjoyed the characters more than I did the dragons, which I don't know if I would have said about the animated movie.
Sure. So I love Toothless here, and I get what you're saying, and I see where that's coming from. I feel like Toothless Eyes in particular did a great job of emoting for him. There's the one scene like in the third act, right, when they have to go and catch Astrid as she's like leaping off the thing, and they get him, and Hiccup's like, "Did you get her?" And he does the like his whole head bends underneath his body. His eyes are like huge. And he's like, "Yep." And I love that. It's just those little moments that are just like adorable, honestly, in this movie. And that's the way that Toothless emotes, that it's like, it's a mix. It's hard, Steve, when you have to have this character be both like a ferocious, badass dragon and a cute puppy.
Sure.
You know, it's kind of hard. But I found that to be really good. I think the moments where he is either helping Hiccup or calling Hiccup to him are where Toothless is the most toothless, if that makes sense. So, did you get the feels at any point during this?
No. I mean, okay, I guess the part. Okay, there's two parts. Yeah, when Toothless was drowning,
for sure,
Me too. One, and then when Toothless was going to save Hiccup at the in the big fireball.
Same. And even though I know what happens, like
I had forgotten. My wife made like a emoted something while we were watching, and I was like, I didn't get what she meant, and then I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that happened.
Yeah. Those two for me as well, every single time. Also, when Toothless comes to save Hiccup in the arena.
Okay.
This like strong bond of friendship.
Yeah.
Right. Gets me because they earned it. They earned that moment by building to it, especially in the live action. I feel I agree with you. They took more time.
Yeah, I will say I forgot. See, when I said the feels, I was thinking more of the sadness, but the like disgust with all the Vikings like tackling Toothless was a little bit. It was more visceral because it was live action. I think there was that less of the degree of separation when you're watching humans. I mean, I know it's CGI, but humans rather than cartoon characters.
Yep, I agree. And then finally, for me, it's the scene where they try out the full gear for the first time, right, and get out there over the sea and fly. That's tremendous. Love it every single time.
Did you enjoy the age jump? Because I feel like in the animated movie, like Hiccup's probably what?
He's probably 13, like 12.
14?
Yeah.
And here, all the characters feel more like they're 16, 17.
They're in high school.
What do you feel about that?
I feel like it works better because I think you can get better performances out of actors in this age range. Yeah. And it's still like, you know, Nico Parker, Mason Thames, they still, and the other actors in there too, Gabriel Howell, etc. They're all young enough that you can buy that they're not full on members of this community yet. They're still young. And, you know, so there's still that sense of wonder and all of that. And I bought it. I was good. Well, how about you?
I was fine with it too. I really enjoyed Gabriel Howell's character. He played the douchey high school kid, you know, the high school bully. He actually very much reminded me of, I think it's Flash, from Spider-Man, including kind of looking like him. In fact, I had to look it up to see what he was in, because I was like, I feel like I recognize him, but he's not in that much. But he played a great job. I enjoyed his character. And then Julian Dennison from The Hunt for Wilder People.
Yes.
I love his acting.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rough Nut and Tough Nut, Bronwyn James and Harry Trevaldwin. I enjoyed. They had some funny lines. Like it wasn't like I thought they did a good job at making the four of them have some personality, have some like humanity to them, while cracking some jokes, but not having it be the like sidekick. I'm gonna call it the Chris Pratt.
Yes, I know exactly
where they're it's just jokes after jokes. Like they have the humor, and then it's like we get right back. It's not just everything's a joke to you.
The scene with the little baby dragon and
yeah.
Tough Nut is like, what is this thing? And then he gets bit in the face.
Still works just as well as it did back then.
It does. No, I was totally okay with because it's what, like a 4-year jump, 5, right? Difference between animated and here. So I'm okay with it. I'm good with it.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, let's talk themes real quick in this before we get out of here. So there are, and this is a family movie and it's just a fun time, but there are some really serious themes going on in this movie. And one of them obviously is, the themes of empathy and friendship and things like that, and being open to people who are different from you or things that are different from you, right? And trying to understand on a deeper level than just that surface level hatred. I feel like that really plays today, versus did in 2010 too. It kind of always does, but it really does today.
I'm reading Gregor the Overlander by Suzanne Collins right now. I've just finished book 3. And the first book was published in 2003. And it literally the same exact theme of like, we are fighting them and they're fighting us because we've always fought them and they've always fought us, and we hate them because they hate us and we hate them, and it's just a cycle. And it like it's funny that I literally read the book this morning, finished it. Same thing happened. You watch How to Train Your Dragon, and there's like, why are we killing the dragons? Well, because they've killed so many of us. Well, when's this gonna stop? Like someone has to stop it.
It's that scene. The actors are really good in this scene, where Gerard Butler is like, they killed hundreds of us, and Mason Thames, we've killed thousands of them.
Yeah.
And it's just the emotion that comes out there from both of them, just anger and then like pleading for it a new way, right? And I thought that was really well done. It's but it requires empathy to get there, and Hiccup leads with that throughout this movie. And that's why he's able to find different ways to win the contest in the arena without hurting any of the dragons. He learns that they sneeze at dandelions, and they react different ways to different things. And it's a really interesting way to go about it, rather than just saying we're just going to resort to this violence, right? Because that's what we've always done. So I found that to be really, really on point for today. What else stood out to you with anything theme wise?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of the getting out of the just patterns. That would be the biggest one.
Yeah.
And kind of like staying true to yourself was another one.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like I was going to call that out as the other really big one here. A mix of staying true to yourself and finding your place, right?
Yeah. Because the joke, early on, and they kept it in from the animated, where Hiccup is definitely different, and both his dad and Gobber make jokes about like all of this, and he's like, you point to all of me. Or the other joke where it's like he doesn't like, it's not like he doesn't like the way you look, it's just he doesn't like what's inside of you. And it's on the surface it's funny. I mean it's just a funny joke, but we all know what, like, us as adults anyways, kind of get what they're saying, that you need to fit in and conform. And I think Hiccup showing himself to be different and kind of being the reason that they have this nice society at the end of the movie, where the dragons and the humans are working together. Like, I think that's a I mean, it's a big theme of the movie for sure,
Mhm.
and an important one, I think, too.
Because the humans didn't know at first that the dragons were raiding them out of survival, like
Yeah.
because they would be killed if they didn't continue supplying this queen with all of this food, right? So I think once
Yeah,
that was learned, it did kind of change. Go ahead.
I I think maybe it's just my adult brain working mixed with maybe the live action has some effect, but I did wonder why the dragons just kept going back, like go anywhere else. To me it felt like the big dragon was trapped there until they kind of blew the hole in the mountain and then it was able to like break free. I don't know if that was true, and but why didn't they just not go to her?
So why does an abused animal keep going back to its owner,
that's
though,
fair,
right?
that's
And all that type of thing. Why does an abused child keep going home every day,
Yeah.
right? Same type of thing. Um, yeah, and then at the end, and spoiler alert, if we haven't done that enough already, but it's a 15-year-old movie.
Yeah, I meant to
original,
say this
so
at the
get over
beginning
it.
of the show. If you go in, like, if you didn't like the animated, if you're one of the 3 people on planet
Right.
Earth that didn't, there's going to be nothing new here that makes you like it. So you know what the story is if you're going to see this.
Mhm.
If you're watching us, you know what the story is.
Mhm. So Hiccup at the end loses part of a leg, and he gets his Viking scars, Steven. And that's a way in that culture of really feeling like you belong.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it's these 2 friends, both broken,
Yep.
who have come together and are greater together, right?
Not even both broken. They're both broken in like the same way.
Yes.
They, Hiccup has now lost his leg, and Toothless lost part of his like tail wing that keeps him, or it makes him able to fly.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're opposite legs, but I think that helps fit.
But I think they both had a type of pain, like internally too.
Yeah.
Hiccup for sure.
It's true. But Toothless is like the only one of his kind until the 3rd movie, which I haven't seen yet. But I do need to go watch it, 2 and 3. Didn't realize how good they were.
Yeah. All right, let's score this thing. So,
real quick,
please go ahead.
I do actually no. We'll score and then I'll get to my point because it's kind of unrelated to the movie, but related.
So we love this thing. We went back and forth between an 8.5 and a 9, and we're gonna settle on an 8.5. I think 9 is totally fair if you want to give it that. Audience scores are much higher than critic scores here, and I am gonna side with the audience, honestly. This movie's a lot of fun, and it makes your heart feel good, and that's okay sometimes. Not everything needs to be ugly and serious and ew. So what were you gonna say?
Yeah, so it's funny that Dean DeBlois, I probably just butchered that pretty badly. Dean DeBlois is the director of this, when he also, I guess technically didn't direct Lilo and Stitch, but he was like the lead writer on it.
But he did direct the original How to Train Your Dragon. It's the same guy. So
but I mean, like, Lilo. The reason I'm bringing it up is Lilo and Stitch just had a remake that definitely didn't stay true to its roots, including having a whole different meaning at the end. And I think that's kind of important here is that it's nice of Dean to, he was the lead. I don't know if he directed the first, but he did do the screenplay for it.
The first How to Train Your Dragon?
Yeah.
He directed.
Okay.
The same director for both movies, here and there.
Gotcha.
And he's directing the next one too.
Yeah. It's just nice to see them kind of do that.
What do you prefer? Do you like this where it stays true?
I don't need it to, if it's good on its own, but I think sometimes, a lot of times, the directors are so scared to go so far away from the original that they get in this weird, like, dead man's or no man's land where it's a terrible place to be. Either just use the source material and write your own story, or do a kind of shot for shot remake, expanding enough where it feels like its own thing, but it's still respectful. I think I'd prefer this over what we usually get.
Here's
like
my
what Lilo and Stitch did. And
here's my rule of thumb, and not that they have to follow my rule of thumb, but here it is anyway. If it's a liked but not loved movie and you can tweak some things and improve upon it, do that. If it's 99, 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, like How to Train Your Dragon is, keep it true. That's what I wanted here. I wanted that connection between Hiccup and Toothless. I thought it was perfect the first time. I wanted to see how they did it in live action, and it delivered in every single way. And I'm probably going to go see this in theaters again before it leaves. So it's just, I had a great time. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I can't, recommend it enough to everybody. If you want a good family flick and, you're not in the mood for the John Wicks or any of that, this is a good choice. So, by the way, it's already greenlit for a second one. This movie's already made over $200 million globally. So it's already surpassed its budget. It has a little bit further to go to meet the budget plus marketing, right? But it's going to get there, and it's going to be just fine. So I've already pre-ordered the Steelbook, Steven. I know that's probably a huge surprise to you, but that's already done. So, all right. So let us know in comments what you think of How to Train Your Dragon. If you loved it, hopefully you did as well. And if you didn't, how come? Let us know what your favorite part of the movie is. Do you love Toothless? And where does How to Train Your Dragon fit in your list of like animated movies? Where does it sit among your favorites? Let us know. And we will see you soon with a review. I think myself and Hayden are probably going to do Materialist soon. And then we'll have a whole bunch of other stuff leading up to Jurassic World, which all of us are fighting over the right to get to go see and review.
Well, I have to watch a lot of them.
So, yeah. Do you though? I'm not.
I guess not. I think they're going back to Jurassic Park's one island. So
yeah, I think no, they're not. It's a island that did all the research for Jurassic 1. And this is the island of misfits that were too naughty to go to the Jurassic Island.
Oh, but it's related to Jurassic.
Yeah, I feel like it's a sequel to 1, maybe 2.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I'm good then, because I haven't seen anything past 1.
And it doesn't have what's his face in it, Star-Lord.
Nope.
Chris Pratt, which I don't hate Chris Pratt, but you're right, he is the same, and like it's too much sometimes.
Yep.
So, all right, we're out. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.